Hi guys, and welcome back to Hairdryer Treatment. We are back with another show. It's me and Meg tonight, and we are hosting the fantastic Rick the Red. Firstly, Rick, how are you doing?
Very well indeed, thanks. Yeah, very well.
Good, good. And of course, we've got the lovely Meg with us. Meg, you all right?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm much better than the weekend. When did we last do one? I can't remember now. But whenever it last was, I'm much better by now.
To be fair, the weekend, I'm going to discuss that with you, Ricky, because I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet. But that Palace performance, how can you summarise that?
Oh, it's just shocking all over the field, wasn't it? Absolutely shocking. We weren't ready. I put a tweet out a few days before saying I don't like the fact that we've only played a friendly against Aston Villa. We've not played for a month, and we've got certain players who have only just come back. I said I'm not, I wasn't happy with it whatsoever, and didn't really fancy us. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think we never had that game under control, did we? Every time Palace attacked, they always looked like we're going to score. And I know we can argue about the penalty and the handball, and obviously De Gea coming off his line and whatnot, but ultimately we always looked in danger, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not happy with VAR. I think it's shocking. The number of things to get wrong. But at the end of the day, we were already one down at that point. It could have been more. Like you say, they deserve to be up. They deserve to be more than one up. But you still need the VAR people to get these things right. That should have been chalked off once the ref had given the pen. It should have been chalked off. If it bounces up onto you, or if somebody fires it at you at close range, it shouldn't be a pen. And they've given that. And you just never know. Look, because I'm a United fan. If anyone's watching this who's not a United fan, they'll say, "Oh, he's making excuses." I suppose I sort of am, but we are one down. We should have been more than one down. But if they didn't get that pen and didn't go 2-0 up, who's to say what might have happened? You just never know. You just never.
Exactly, I completely agree. I mean, a lot of people scrutinise obviously Lindelof's performance in that game. He did have a poor game, don't get me wrong, but like you mentioned, I think it was hard to pick out one player who actually played well from that one. It was just a shocking performance in general. But moving on to Luton, obviously a lot of changes were made in that game. A lot of people were criticising the changes made in that game. But ultimately, do you think Ollie got it right in the end?
As far as the result on the night was concerned, he got it right. But I would have thought it would have been advisable for the same reason that I've just said about us only having that one game against Villa. It was a fairly strong side, but I would have thought there was more players than that who needed game time, than who should have played, really.
I agree, because we looked off the pace, didn't we, at Palace? We looked so off the pace. You could tell that we hadn't had a proper pre-season. We'd only had one friendly. They were way sharper than us, hungrier than us. And I was expecting what you said. I was expecting certain names to play who looked leggy at the weekend because they need to get the minutes in. But, I mean, the subs came on, obviously, Greenwood, Rashford, they came on, changed the game. I'm just hoping they can continue that and get a bit of confidence from them goals, Ricky.
Yeah, they could get a bit of confidence from the goals, but I'm not too sure that it. I'm not too sure. Obviously, it made a difference on the night they came on. They scored them goals, but they were tiring by then. It was Luton's second team. They were. It was a tired team, and it was more or less Luton reserves. I don't think it's much to write home about coming on and scoring goals against them. Whether we would have scored any more goals, we might not have done. We were already leading and they were tiring. I don't think it's a big deal, but I do agree with you. No matter what level of football you're playing in, if you're scoring goals, it does boost your confidence, and maybe it might well help you in the next game, no matter who you're scoring them against.
I completely agree there, Ricky. Meg, what were your thoughts on the Luton game?
I think, like Ricky said, it's a difficult one to get the balance right in for Ollie, because we've got players that need minutes, but we've also got players that we don't want to risk injury as well. So it was kind of like, do we want to play our first team and risk the chance that they get injured, or do we give players the opportunity to play and risk it? So the scoreline says we got it right. I was a little bit good that we didn't score from open play before we relied on the fact that Rashford came on, Greenwood came on. But we could look back at the end of last season, we relied on those players. They are our striking options. They are our first team options, first 11 options. So it's great that they've come on and bagged a goal. That can only do them the world of good.
I agree. I think Rashford, we've commented saying he hasn't looked the same player. I know you're not a big Rashford fan anyway, Ricky, but since lockdown, since his injury, he's definitely not been the same player he was beforehand. And I'm hoping that goal now pushes on to build a bit of confidence, because I can't remember the last time I saw Rashford, to be honest, try and beat a man, try and take a man on. And I don't know if that's a confidence thing, if it's a fitness thing, and I'm just hoping now that we can see an improvement from that. But I mean, we're all sick of the transfer rumours, Ricky, as I'm sure you are. The Sancho, the S word, we call it on here now, because we do not want to say it because we're sick of hearing it so much. But we've been linked to Tellers, obviously a left back. Do you think that that's somewhere where we should be looking to strengthen? I mean, what's your thoughts on Luke Shaw going forward?
I quite like Luke Shaw. Like we just said, not too many players came out with much credit from the game at weekend anyway. But I think Luke Shaw was playing great before he got injured against Southampton. I really do. I was well pleased with him. I do like the idea of having a left-footed left back as cover. Williams is okay, but he's predominantly right-footed, and I think he's probably better playing as a right back.
Yeah.
Although he's had a couple of decent games in really tough games. Don't forget, he played against City. He played at Chelsea when we won at Stamford Bridge. So he hasn't let us down in a couple of big games. Although I suppose it's worth mentioning against City, when City brought Mahrez on. When City brought Mahrez on, Mahrez started to take him to the cleaners a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
Remember, we were playing with 3 centre backs that day, and Bailey was on the bench. We brought Bailey on, and we put Shaw to left back, and then took Williams off. And Shaw, kept Mahrez quiet, whereas Williams was struggling against him. And I think that helps you to see the difference really between those two. Excuse me. But Tellez, I've got to be honest, I've never watched him play. I don't know what he's like. I hear he's a good attacking fullback. I hear 1 minute that he scores goals and makes goals, and then the next minute I'm hearing also that he takes the corners and takes the penalties. So I don't know whether he's assists from open play.
Sounds like Phil Jones. Sounds like Phil Jones.
From open play are any more frequent than they are from Luke Shaw. I don't know about that, but. One thing I definitely don't know is whether, if we do sign him, are we signing him to play or are we signing him to sit on the bench? Don't know.
Exactly. I mean, Van der Beek, we've seen a bit more of him obviously against Luton. What are your two thoughts on him so far? Because we're saying where's he going to play, what's his best position, where's he going to fit in. I've got to be honest, I think his combination play, I think the way he was trying to always play with Mata, he's obviously a very intelligent player, and I've liked what I've seen so far. But what's your first impressions, Rick?
Very impressed. I said when we were signing him, it was the international break coming up, and we already signed him. In fact, I think we already signed him, and I watched him play for the Dutch team. He came on as a sub once, and he started the other game. And after those 2 games, I was staggered how far forward he played in those games. And I said at the time, and a lot of people were disagreeing with me. I said I can only see him playing either taking the place of. I'm not saying he played directly up front, but he's so far forward. I can only see him taking the place of one of the forwards, or possibly, and people will be moaning in a second, or possibly Bruno. Now, the only reason I'm saying that is that Bruno plays the furthest forward of our 3 midfield players. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And it's just that they play the same position. I'm not saying anything about either of the 2 players, just purely and simply that they do compete for the same sort of areas on the park. And,
I agree. When we signed him, I think we were under no illusion. He is that 10, isn't he? He does play in Bruno's position, and that's why we're saying we need to get the balance in the midfield. Is he going to come in and replace him, or somehow is he going to accompany him? And that's obviously the puzzle that Ollie has got. But I thought, like you, surely he's competition for Bruno in that creative role. I mean, Meg, what's your first impressions of Van der Beek?
I haven't seen enough of him still to be like he's settled. I don't feel like he's obviously settled. He's come off the bench, but I think he's important. He will be important for us. We always talk about quality in the squad, and he is quality. We always talk about healthy competition. It's healthy competition for us, and we can utilise him in a number of roles. That's also great. If we've got a player like Brandon Williams, like we were talking about, both he can do a job on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. It is cover for us, and Van der Beek will be able to cover in numerous positions. I think it'll just be interesting to see if we see that the 3, and I talk about Pogba, Bruno, and Van der Beek playing together. because I think that would leave us short of cover and discipline in front of our back four. And coming from a centre half, I know how important it is to have that central defensive midfielder to screen, because if you leave that gap, they can play straight into a striker's feet, and if you're not close enough, they can turn and they're facing the way that they want to go. If it goes straight to their feet and you've not got that shield in front of you, they can set it back. They can then start playing. They can go wide. So I think discipline in the central defensive role is really important. And I think perhaps if we see the three that I was talking about, it might leave us short. But yeah, I think he will do a really important role for us. And I don't think he will just be sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I can't see him just being. He seems too good to be sat on the bench, to be honest with you. But I think, like Meg said, that holding midfield. I think we saw against Palace, Matic didn't play, and we had no control in that game. And I think that's what Matic brings us, an element of control in that midfield. We both rate Matic, and I think he keeps the game ticking. And I think with McTominay in there, we didn't have enough discipline in there. We were far too open, and it wasn't just the midfield. But let's face it, we were bullied across the park. But I think Matic not playing, we see a massive difference. And at the moment, he's the best player, isn't he, Rick, to play that CDM role?
Without a doubt. I like what Meg says about the person who's shielding the two centre-backs. A lot of people on Twitter that speak to me sort of think that we can give it a try with Bruno, Pogba and Van der Beek. And it, you could get away with it in a game or two, but you will not get away with it in a prolonged period. You do need somebody who's going to play that disciplined role. And when I've said that we've missed Matic in certain games, I said it after the Sevilla game. I couldn't believe that he didn't pick him against Sevilla and he was on the bench and Fred played. A lot of people told me that Fred played well, and Fred played all right. Of course he did, but Matic is just superb at actually doing the exact job that Meg's just spoken about covering and being in front of the band and basically just not disappearing, just holding that position. So a few of the responses I got were sort of saying, he wouldn't have won this ball or he wouldn't have blocked that cross. They're missing the point completely. If you play the CDM role and play it really, really well, and look, it's almost impossible to go through a game of football without touching the ball, but you can actually have a decent game as a CDM without ever touching the ball. You're cutting off the avenues and you're making them play to the side when they want to play forward. Sometimes you're making them turn around and play back. So I know it sounds... Well, it is. It's so simple. It's unbelievable. It's about where you stand on the pitch and where you position yourself that makes you a good CDM. And sometimes, certainly, there'll be a dozen occasions in a game where you're cutting off a passing route that they want to go down and they have to turn and go a different way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I played CDM. I was that person in front of Meg, ironically. So I understand completely what you're talking about. It's about, for example, if you look at Harry Kane, if you've got an influential play like that, it's about shielding and stopping their main players getting on the ball, like you mentioned. And you don't necessarily have to intervene with that. You're just cutting off the angles. And Matic is just so experienced. You just can tell he knows where to be. He knows when he gets the ball, he keeps it simple. He is always looking for a pass forward. And I think at this moment in time, Fred needs to be looking at Matic and learning that discipline role, because Fred, obviously, I'd say is the closest one to getting in. I don't think McTominay will be that CDM. I don't know. I just don't feel like he's at that level. And of course, I hope I'm wrong on that. But Fred, I think technically he's a very good player, but he's just a bit rash and not disciplined enough to play it yet. So I think he needs to learn from that. This is an interesting comment. My dad's in the chat. He's a Wolves fan, obviously. He says, the most worrying thing, if I was a United fan, is I cannot see how United are trying to play. Whereas all of their teams have a style and a pattern of play. It's worrying times for United. Ricky, would you agree or disagree with that? Do you think that we have a style of play and a clear way of trying to play?
I'll be honest. I've watched. I'm watching a lot of football at the moment. All the games are all kicking off at different times, aren't they? And virtually every team I watch look better organised than we do. Should we just leave it at that?
Look, I completely agree. I don't know if it's a pattern of play or how he's worded it. I think it's more the pace of our play. I think we're far too slow, and by the time we try and have phase of play or wherever it is, the team have obviously got men behind the ball, and then we're struggling to break them down. I think it's more our speed of our play is far too slow. You look at us compared to most teams, and we move the ball far slower, and I think that is what hinders us. But obviously we've got Brighton at the weekend, Ricky. Are you feeling confident going into that one? Because they're not going to be a pushover, are they?
The difficulty, I always say this when people ask me for a prediction, And the difficulty in this day and age, when I before you two were probably born even, when I was a young man, the same team played week in, week out. You could name the team. You know what I mean? You just knew teams off the top of your head. When I was a lad, you could have asked me, what will Leeds United's team be at the weekend? And I would have said Sprake, Reenie Cooper, Brendan Charlton Hunter, Laurie McClark, Jones, Giles Gray. Do you know what I mean? You just knew the teams. Now, there's that many changes in this day and age that you don't know what the team's going to be. So am I confident? If he's going to play Matic as a CDM, I will be quite confident. But if he doesn't, and I won't be. So, I can't really say for sure whether I'll be confident or not. I did watch Brighton at Newcastle at the weekend, and they look pretty good. You know what I mean? They look organised, disciplined. I don't think it's going to be either way. We've got more chance if Matic plays.
Do you think we go into this game, because I'm not sure I do we go into this game as favourites? Or are we now at the point where we're playing teams like this and we're not going in as favourites anymore?
Question,
we're going in and this is a tough game.
I actually I'll come back to that in a second, but just as something else about that question is I don't think Crystal Palace came to Old Trafford with any fear at the weekend. I don't think they thought they were coming there as underdogs. I think they came there to win. In years gone by, teams like Palace would come there and, they'd love to get out of the place with a 0-0 draw. They'd let the game finish after 10 minutes if you let them. Do you know what I mean? But they've come there to win and they're confident that they can do it. So, it's a different kettle of fish these days. So, I don't think Brighton will be afraid of us. But obviously, we're still Man United. If everybody turns up and if he does pick the best team, I don't know what he's going to do. By the way, because I'm sure he's going to want to try and fit Van der Beek in. I don't think he's going to want to drop Bruno or Pogba. So you might find that Matic isn't playing. But
interesting. I think their fullback, is it Lamperty as well? Is it right back? I believe so. He's going to be coming up against Luke Shaw. I think that is going to be a really interesting battle because I've seen obviously a few games of Lamperty now. And he's an exciting prospect, isn't he?
Yeah, he looked really good. So did the lad who got sent off, what was he called?
Bissouma.
Bissouma. What a player! What a player he looks. I love players like that in midfield who get it and give it, give little 5-yard passes, just move 2 yards, get it back again. He looks a quality player. Anyway, he got a red card, so I think he'll be missing more. So.
It was a kung fu kick, wasn't it?
You talk about those players, but that is actually how simple football should be, shouldn't it? And I think at times Manchester United can really overcomplicate that, and then we end up relying on the fact that we're quite quick or pacey up front, and we'll play on the counter. But I think when you talk about playing, like getting the ball, giving it, and moving, that is literally it's so simple. That is what you should be doing, and I think we don't do that enough when we find that teams drop against us and make us have the ball. I noticed it the other day against Luton, and I don't want to I feel really bad because I'm going to mention Lingard, and I don't actually think they had a bad game, but he did it. He got the ball and he stopped the ball, and it was just like, well, keep the ball moving, because as soon as you stop the ball, that's where your problems start. If you keep the ball moving, every time you move the ball, you move their defence or their midfield, you move their whole shape. You go over to the left, it was on the left-hand side, he stopped the ball. Start moving it again, and you move it, and then until you just keep moving the ball until there's an opening. And I think we don't do that enough, and we don't do it quick enough. And that's why we end up relying on the counter-attack.
I couldn't agree with you more.
We've got a super chat from Derek. It's a good question. Why is everyone so against the 4-1-3-2 with all our best midfielders in? The 4-3-3 ain't working. We're giving Pogba too much to do. What's your thoughts on that formation, the 4-1-3-2? Obviously, the idea of getting Van der Beek, Bruno and Pogba all in there. You've still got Holding. You're lacking width, you'd argue, on that one. I mean, it depends, obviously, how wide you would place that formation. But, Ricky, do you think that could work?
No. Like I said before,
Didn't need to think about that one, Rick. No.
Like I said before, football's a funny game. It might work for a game or two, but it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work long term. He could try that on Saturday, and they might win, and he might try it the Saturday afternoon. We might win, but before you know it, we'll be having a bad run of results playing like that. In that, I assume he's got in that either Matic or Fred as the CDM. Then he's got Bruno Pogba and Van der Beek in midfield. Too many people in the middle there, getting in the way of each other. And then up front, not enough. You've got too many people in one part of the pitch and not enough in another part of the pitch. It's a dead simple game. Dead simple game. Only 2 forwards isn't enough, unless when you say 4, obviously I think I know which players he's thinking of. He's trying to fit Bruno, Pogba, and Van der Beek in, but they're all proper midfield players. If one of those players was a winger and actually stayed out on the wing to support the forwards on the flank, making the pitch a bit bigger, then it might have a chance. But they're not. They're not.
Yeah, that's what I said. I feel like with lack of width and left, we played a wider version of that. I think. Yeah. With those midfielders, are not natural wide players, are they? And with pushing Rashford up top.
When you say that, like the 3, like with Bruno, you could have Bruno, Van der Beek, and Pogba, and then you think. That means Pogba will be playing out on the wing. Like, if he's the one that's going to give us width, and you just look at that and you think he's not someone that you'd ever think, oh, we'll go and put him on the wing. I mean, he might do a sterling job there, but it's probably not the place that I would have Pogba. But then, like Ricky said, it would be so congested in that middle with everybody trying to get on the ball. And if you have everybody in the middle, then your strikers then go out to create room. And then you've got Rashford and Martial, who should be playing next to each other, split on the wrong side of the pitch, and then there's no support. So it's quite a congested formation, that one, I think.
I'm sure he didn't mean it in this respect. I can't remember who it was who asked that question.
It was Derek.
I'll tell you what, Derek, in a strange kind of way, it could perhaps work better against the better teams where we've got less of the ball, because you are congesting that midfield so much.
Yeah.
If we use that formation with those 3 players in the middle of the field against the likes of City and Liverpool, where they've got a lot of the ball, we want to congest that area to make it difficult for them. But when we're trying to take the game to teams, we need to make more space and not be on top of one another.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, especially with so many technical players. You can have too many of the same kind of player, can't you? It can become overcrowded. So, Jason, that's a good question. Well, he's made a good point, not asked a good question. He says Pogba plays too deep. He's not suited for that role. I kind of agree with that. I think when Pogba is playing too deep, you've seen he's liable to give the ball away because he likes to try things. And he doesn't influence the game enough for me playing in that deeper position. I would much rather see him slightly further forward. I don't know if you feel the same as me in that sense, Rick, but I think he does need to be further forward to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I think I don't think he's best as a defensive midfield player. Like we just said, it's difficult fitting everyone in, but he is definitely better further forward.
Definitely, because he's so good in and around the box. We said Van der Beek with his little combinations. That's something Pogba can do as well. The little 1-2s. He's a clever player. He's often after that little dink over the top. He's intelligent, and I think further forward we get the best out of him. Doug says, with everyone fit, what is United's strongest 11? It's a good one. Shall we go through the 11? And thank you for the super chat, Doug. Make sure you go and subscribe to Doug's channel as well. He's doing really well over there. But first, we'll start in goal. Our strongest 11. Would you stick with the higher in goal?
I think so.
Meg?
I think initially, I would stick with him. I think Henderson still needs a bit more time to create a partnership with the centre backs as well, and the trust. So for me right now, De Gea, yeah.
And then right back, we'll go Wan-Bissaka. I'm guessing you both agree on that one. Yeah. Centre back. So obviously we're gonna have Maguire there, but who would be your? This is a good question. Who would be the strongest partner? Do you reckon for Maguire right now?
Do you want to go first, Megs?
Listen, I love Bailly because I think I've said it before, I think he's the closest we've ever had to the Vidic and Ferdinand characteristics in terms of a player. I don't think Bailly is as good as Vidic and Ferdinand, but the characteristics that he shows, that kind of wayward attitude that he's going to win the ball, probably why he gets injured so much. It is a bit wayward. He sticks his neck on the line, doesn't he? And I think against some teams that's really good that you've got a go-getter and you've got somebody who's going to go and win the ball. But sometimes I think Lindelof is probably a little bit better that he actually sits and he doesn't lose his head as often. I think I love the fact that Bailly's got this characteristic of no-nonsense defender. So I'll go for Bailly.
Rick?
If we're including every player who's still on our books at the moment, I'd go Chris Smalling, but I think we can forget Chris Smalling. He's gonna be leaving, I think, isn't he? So if I don't include Smalling, I think I'd look. I know we had a terrible game on Saturday. It was awful, but I think I'd just about go Lindelof myself. He did play nearly every game in that undefeated run. When you think about after lockdown, he was playing in all those games when we were winning by 3, etc. Before lockdown, he was the one that was playing, and Bailey was fit and on the bench. I remember Bailey played at Stamford Bridge when we won there, but he only played because Lindelof was injured. And then by the time we played City, beating City 2-0 at Old Trafford was no mean feat. It was a good victory. Lindelof played in that game. Bailey was on the bench. Do you know what I mean? I think he's getting a lot of slating, Lindelof, at the minute because of his performance on Saturday. And like Meg said, Bailey's a bit headstrong, I think, at times. I think he's injury prone because he's so headstrong. But I know, I do appreciate that the question means if he's fit. But even if he's fit, to me, I think he'll make more mistakes than Lindelof will. That's my opinion. You might get away with them. It's a funny old thing, football. If you make a mistake and get away with it, it's forgotten about. If you make a mistake and they score, it's people don't forget it, do they?
No, he is a bit of a nutcase, isn't he, boy? I think we love him for that reason, but I agree with you. He flies into challenges. He did one against Luton that he had no need to fly into, but he did anyway, and that's how he gets injured. I completely agree. Reese, thank you for the super chat. This is Reese's preferred 11. So he's got De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Bailly, Maguire, Shaw, Pogba, Matic, Greenwood, Bruno, Rashford, and Martial. And we're going to finish ours now and see how that compares to that. But thank you, Reese, for contributing. I mean, we've got Wan-Bissaka, Boy/Lindelof. You both chose Boy. One chose Boy, one chose Lindelof. Maguire and Shaw. I think it was my choice. I agree. I don't think Lindelof just dropping him out of the team completely is the most useful thing to do. But I think right now, at this moment in time, after his performance the other day, I'd probably say I'd put Boy in there. Because I think you should always start based on your form, and I think he's in the better form right now, so I'd put him in. But I agree, he's very rash, and I do think that he makes a lot of mistakes. I think because he's quick, he kind of gets away with it, but he is definitely one that you can't fully trust as well.
I do agree with you, Soph, but we didn't. I mean, what we're saying here, what the team should be on Saturday, or are we saying what is our best team?
Our best team.
Yeah, our best team.
Yeah, our best team.
In my opinion, in our best team, Lindelof. But if we were picking the team for this Saturday, it'd be Bailey. You can't keep him in.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
You can't keep him in after that weekend that he had.
Are we going to go with one holding, 2 midfielders in front? Is that the way we're going to plan it?
I think so.
Or 2 holding, 1 in front? So Matic would get into my best team. Rick, I'm guessing he would get into yours.
Imagine if he did. Imagine if no. Go on, make a headline. That would be a headline, Rick. That would be.
And then who's going to go next to Matic then? Who are you saying? Or the next player in our team? It'd have to be Pogba, wouldn't it? I think.
Sorry, go on, Meg, go on.
I was going to say I would probably put Pogba, even though I've just although we've said that he probably should play a bit more forward. I don't know. You can win a game. Pogba could win you a game if he's on form. And if we're going to say start best 11, I'm going to say Pogba's having his best game of his life. Pogba can open up teams. He's strong. His passing ability. So I will put Pogba in.
Yep. Rick?
Yeah, just about go with Pogba and Bruno as the other 2 midfield players. I've not been convinced of them towards the end of the season, just gone like against Sevilla and Copenhagen. They didn't do so great, and they haven't started this season too great. But we did have a good run. With Pogba and Bruno both playing. So I'd go with that at the minute, Pogba and Bruno, yeah.
Yeah, do you think, I saw someone put in the chat just, Bruno Fernandes, you mentioned 2 holding midfielders. I know Pogba is the one who we tend to put there. Bruno, obviously, we've seen he's played an 8. He can be that box-to-box. Do you think he would be more suited to play deeper and maybe put Pogba up further to the forwards?
No.
Why?
I'm going to do a Rick. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm saying no. Because I think he's more intricate. I think he's more intricate. I think we've had it in the past with Mata, where he has that vision to unlock defences and be able to complete the pass, as well as not only like his vision to see the pass, but actually complete that pass. So for me, I think although he perhaps can be a box to box, Bruno again is one of those players you want in and around the edge of the 18. He wins you free kicks around there as well. So for me, he still plays a little bit more forward.
Yeah, Ricky, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Bruno's more suited to the attacking role.
Mm-hmm. I think with Pogba, what I miss is, we saw it a few times in a red shirt. Sorry to interrupt you there, Rick. But where he does those driving runs from deep in midfield, if we're counter-attacking, it's hard to stop him in his tracks. When he gets going, Pogba is an absolute machine, and I want to see that a bit more. Pogba being positive, beating players, and we've already mentioned his vision, but I think he's strong, he's quick, and he's a force that it's difficult to stop when he gets going.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he's when he's on his day, but he doesn't have enough of his days for my liking. But I would stick with it for a while. I'd certainly stick with it as Pogba, slightly deep. Matic is the deepest one, then Pogba, and then Bruno.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then obviously we've got our three forwards left. So on the right hand side, we'll start with who do we think is our strongest player out on the right? Go on, Meg.
No one's going to do front three.
I'll wait. That's why I left you to last, Ricky.
No one's going to.
I'm going to go for I'll just say my three because they're the ones that we relied on at the end of the season. I think Greenwood owns that role, and I think even if the S word comes in, Greenwood has been fantastic there. You cannot deny the fact that he has made that role himself. The way that he comes in, and you can just tell what he's looking to do. A couple of step over. He's not even got any backlift on his leg, and he's just drilling it across towards the back post. I love it. I think he's quality. I don't want to hype him up too much because he's still young, and there will be times where it won't go right for him. He's going to drop in form, but that's just the nature of football. That's what happens. But for me, Greenwood.
Go on then, Rick, start us off. What are you saying on that right-hand side?
One Matter.
Matter.
Just seen somebody just put that on there.
Yeah, they read your mind. So you'd put Matter out on the right-hand side. Centrally, are we all going to say unanimous Martial?
I'd go Martial, yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the left-hand side, come on, Rick, are you going to shock us with this one?
Yeah, Dan James.
Dan James. So you've got a bit of pace there, to be fair. So you would drop Rashford and Greenwood from that.
Rick, did you watch? Have you watched the games with Dan James in? I mean, I can't. I'm willing the boy.
If you've got time, I'll do a watch along with you one day.
Definitely, that'll be a great watch.
I don't mean a live one. I mean once you've settled down and let the dust settle. This will blow your mind. What I'm going to say here now. Nobody will believe me. They'll think I'm making it up. I've watched it today. The Crystal Palace game. I have watched it today, and big if, but you tell me if this is right. If a player is doing more good things than another player and doing less poor things than another player, would that generally mean that player is playing better than that player? And if all that is true, Dan James at weekend played better than Anthony Martial. He played better than Mason Greenwood, and he played better than Marcus Rashford. And I've watched it today, and I've stopped it and started it. Every time he's got the ball, he got more crosses in. He did more decent passes. He made a good tackle in his own box. He played okay. He was our pick of our players in the first half. There'd be a few people saying, "What's he watching?" But if you watch it with me and I show it you, I think it'll blow your mind.
You know what?
Go on, mate. I was just going to say, I think with Dan James, I am willing him to be a consistently better player, but I feel like, and I said this months ago, and people were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But I said remember when Ronaldo had that season where he did the hard work and then he lost the ball. He could never get that end product. And I find that with Dan James that he's a really hard worker, but he never really produces the end product consistently. And like I said, I'm willing Dan James to be able to produce that end product, like the cross, whether it's a cross, a little pass, a goal. Just have the end product more consistent.
Can I just say, forget the Luton game. Forget the Luton game, and we did speak. You said yourself earlier about form. You know, when we said we'd pick players on form.
Yeah.
If you look if you look at the I know it was going great a while back, but if you look at the more recent games, neither Rashford nor Greenwood have played well against Crystal Palace. They haven't played well against Sevilla. They haven't played well against Copenhagen. We beat Leicester 2-0, but neither of them did much and didn't play that well.
Since Southampton, pretty much.
Yeah, they've not been playing well for a while, either of them. I'm sorry. Yeah. And there'll be people on there who will be having a go just because they've come through the ranks and the young lads, especially Greenwood. I understand he's a young lad, but we want to win games. Now, people say there's no room for sentiment when they're talking about older players, but there's also no room for sentiment when you're talking about younger players as well. There's no point saying, oh, he's going to be great in another couple of years. You know, at the moment, they're not doing much. And as I say, I've watched that game again today against Palace, and Greenwood could hardly get in the game at all when he came on in the second half.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue, isn't it? Because I think nobody played well in that game. I felt a bit sorry for Dan James getting pulled off at half-time. I don't think he was worse than any other player on the pitch, if I'm totally honest. But obviously, it is what it is. And I did expect him to play against Luton, to be honest. I thought because he was fetched off at half-time, he may start against Luton. But Derek, thank you for the super chat. He says, Boy, you're wrong there. He obviously feels that Boy should be in over Lindelof. I think that one's kind of up in the air. We had mixed one on that one. Let's get through these super chats. Dan James was isolated as he received the ball. Very little. What he did was good. People slag him because he doesn't beat defenders. I agree with Rick. That's Abdul. Thank you for the super chat, Abdul.
It was Rashford, by the way. Sorry, go on, carry on.
I love it. Derek says, spot on, James deserved a chance on the left. I was just about to say that. Obviously, Dan James, earlier on when it was going well for him, he scored goals, cutting in off that left-hand side, whipping into the far post. I kind of miss that Dan James. Do you think it's worth a shot putting him out on the left and seeing if he's better out there?
I think I do, but I also think there's a little bit of a myth going round about Dan James. People saying that he's been off the boil and not playing well. If we go back as far as just before lockdown, and it sounds a long way back, but we've only played we played 14 games after lockdown. We played 2 games now this season. I think we've played 16 games. Just before lockdown, we beat City 2-0, he played in that. We beat Chelsea 2-0, he played in that. We beat Watford 3-0, he played in that. We drew 1-1 at Everton, our only game that we didn't win in the last 4 before lockdown, and Dan James was injured for that game. So the only game that didn't go well out of 4 before lockdown, sheer coincidence, it might well be, but it's the only game that Dan James missed. He played in all the other games. And then since lockdown, he's not been in the team. So I don't know why people are saying he's not been playing well. He's hardly been playing. I don't get it.
I think
you can't expect great things from a player that plays once and then gets dropped for 4 games and then plays or doesn't even play a full match, perhaps plays half a game, Crystal Palace, and then gets taken off and then doesn't play in the Luton or do you know what I mean? They're not getting consistent run of form. So I think again I talk about like partnerships on the pitch and being able to create partnerships. Sophie and I spoke about Luke Shaw and Rashford, and when Luke Shaw got injured, you kind of saw the left-hand side got a bit weaker, and I think that's probably because they do work well together, but they've had that time to bond and be able to create like a consistently forming pattern to play. Whereas when you've got Dan James, you're in and out and you don't really know. And I mean, they should all know phases of play, and you should be doing that on the training ground anyway. But it is about having the confidence in a player that does play all the time. And if he perhaps was in the team more, they would perhaps trust him a bit more and wouldn't leave him so isolated.
Yeah, I think the way that we play as well, like I mentioned earlier, our slow-paced football, I don't think that suits Dan James as well. Quite often he's receiving his ball with his back to goal. That's not his game. That's not where he does. And we don't help him in that sense. I don't think that helps his game. And I feel for him in that sense. I do think he got burned out. I think he obviously took the big step up. He wasn't expecting to play as much as he had done. I do think there was a bit of fatigue there with Dan James as well. But he's been playing well for Wales. I said it should be based on form. I don't think Rashford's been playing well, and I'm a massive Rashford fan. And I wouldn't be totally against Rashford getting dropped at some point, to give him that kick up the bum that he may need to get him back started again, because he hasn't been playing well. But like I say, I'm hoping that goal against Luton does boost him a little bit. But Rick, we're going to ask you a few generic questions about United and about football still. But yeah, some randoms just to switch it up from our depressing situation at the minute at United. But The first one I'm going to ask you is, what is your favourite ever United memory?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I can remember so far back when I was really young, but I've got to say the Champions League final '99. Got to say that.
Where were you, Rick? We discussed this the other day, and myself and Emma were saying that I remember I was abroad. For people who might not have heard, but I was abroad. I was in Mallorca, and I can remember now the bar that I was in. We scored the goal. My dad ran out into the street in Mallorca with his top off, winging it round his head, and me and my sister, both dressed in our full United kits, chasing after him. So like I love that because it takes me back to, I knew exactly where I was, how I felt, and everything surrounding it. So where were you in that moment? Because it is one of those moments where you know where you were.
Well, yeah. I was at the game, and I was sat on level 2 on the long side, and I was halfway between the halfway line and the penalty area, on the side of the pitch where we scored our goals at the other end to my right hand side. Had fantastic seats, and I was there with a group. We had 11 seats together, a group of lads, and it was just a wonderful night. I'll never forget it.
Do you know, I don't think I've ever spoke to anybody who was actually there. Yeah. Talk just for a minute. Just tell us what it was like. Was there like tension in the crowd? What was it like? If you can try and summarize it.
The atmosphere was electric, but I'll never forget a friend of mine that I was with. When we had 11 seats together, we had 6 behind 5, and I'll never forget, it was ticking on to like the 89th minute, and I was just sat there with my head in me, and I was watching the game, but I was like that, you know. And I'll never forget the lad behind me. I'm talking 89 minutes gone and we're losing 1-0. He tapped me on the shoulder. He went, "Don't worry about this, Rick. We're going to win this."
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget it. Never forget it. It was proper strange. But yeah, it was just brilliant. A brilliant night. And obviously straight back onto the Ramblers and everybody drinking and singing. And then
you forget the rest, do you, Rick?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It gets a bit blurry after that point.
It was a bit blurry after that, yeah.
I want to ask that bloke who tapped you on the shoulder what the lottery numbers are for this week, to be honest with you.
No, Euro Millions tomorrow's 110. Get him on their show quick.
Get in touch with him, yeah. Adam, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Soph and Megan. Love the show as always. And Rick, it's great to see you on here, mate. Rick, who is your greatest United player ever? That's actually what we were going to ask you as well, so thank you for that.
There's been absolutely fantastic players since these days, but my favourite player when I was a kid was Bobby Charlton, so I'll always stick with Bobby Charlton.
Love that. And
where does Matic fit in? Does he just a close second? Or?
I think about 3 favourite teams before Matic should probably get into 4.
In years to come, you'll be talking about Matic, and but like, great player, Matic. He's up there with the best, definitely. But obviously, you mentioned Matic there as a current player of yours. Is Matic your current favourite player in this United squad right now, would you say?
Possibly. It's a toss-up, really, between him and Anthony Martial.
Yeah, Martial has got to be up there for me as well. Meg, who would you say at this current squad? I don't think I've asked you this. Who's your favourite player in the current squad right now?
Well, prior to me going back to football, I wore number 6, and I absolutely love Pogba. But I've moved numbers this year. I'm currently playing number 5, so and I feel a little bit gutted because I'm not the same number as Pogba. So that perhaps summarises me. For Pogba, I absolutely love him. I think he's, which I know I say on his day, but he's just incredible. The way, if I was a kid watching football and I wanted to be a footballer, he's got pace, he's got power, he's got strength. He can pass, his range of passing is incredible as well. Perhaps I just would work on his attitude.
Yeah, it's questionable, isn't it? Obviously, it could be hearsay, but I like the fact that at the moment it seems Pogba's focused on his football. There's not a lot of circus following him around, and that's what always got to me with Paul Pogba. When he's focusing on football, that's when he's at his best, and that's what I want to see for Paul Pogba. But I was going to mention, Ricky, obviously you spoke about your favourite player ever. Duncan Edwards is from my neck of the woods. Obviously, I'm from Dudley, around the corner from where Duncan Edwards was from. I'm guessing you got to see him play quite a lot. We hear stories of the kind of player that he was, a phenomenal player. I mean, into perspective.
I know you're only young, Sophie, but you're assuming I'm a bit older than I am, I think, because Duncan
No,
Edwards.
I'm saying you'd have heard, obviously, more. I'm obviously the next generation, but Duncan Edwards obviously was one of the Busby Babes. People spoke a lot about him. You hear the stories and you watch the clips of how good he was. And it just puts it into perspective, doesn't it? We talk about the players that nowadays we've got in our squad. Duncan Edwards, to say, I mean, I remember people saying Phil Jones was going to be the next Duncan Edwards. I remember someone making that comparison. And when you think back to that now, I mean, come on. But we've been blessed, haven't we, Ricky? That's what I was getting to. The point I made in the past, the players that we have had at Manchester United, we've been blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw some great players when I was a kid. Duncan, I was born in '58, so the year of the air crash, I was born. So obviously, before the time. But I did see Bobby Charlton. I saw George Best, Dennis Law. Not too long after that, was it? Really, 10 years later. I started watching about going to games just after they'd won the European Cup in '68. I started going in sort of '69. I was 11 or 12, something like that. And I saw the back end of the careers, really, of Bobby Charlton, George Best, Dennis Law. So they were the first three superstars that I saw. And obviously I've seen plenty since then as well.
Crazy. Yeah, but like I said, blessed, and hopefully we get some of our young players coming through the ranks and we get to see some quality players, but also make some good memories. Because like I say, it's been a bit depressing at United. I'm hoping that we can push on. And to be honest, I just want to get this transfer window out of the way and focus on the football, because I'm literally mentally drained at it all now. I've got to ask you the question though, Ricky. Do you believe that we will sign anybody? The way that it's gone so far, are you confident that we're going to get a deal over the line?
This Telles thing seems to have a bit of momentum, doesn't it? So I would have a stab at that. We'll just get Telles and that'll be it, I think.
Yeah. Jules is giving you a little compliment here as well. Rick, you do not look a day over 47. There you go. But yeah, I just obviously hear the stories.
Can I just say one thing to Meg, by the way? When Meg said before that she'd not met someone who's been to the Champions League final in '99, I was there when we won it in 2008 in Moscow as well.
Wow.
But obviously being of an age of I am, and obviously being from, I know there's United fans everywhere, but there's tens of thousands of United fans near me. I know a few lads. We've won it 3 times: '68, '99, '08. I know a few lads who have been at all 3 finals. You know what I mean?
That's incredible. Incredible.
I bet they'd be able to tell some stories.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to end it on this one because I threw this question to Webby the other day and it's just a bit of fun. There's no real logic behind it, to be honest. It's just who you prefer out of the 2 players. And Meg already knows the question I'm going to ask you. And in the chat, let us know as well. But I asked Webby this the other day and I said, if you had to choose one, Keano or Scholes, who would you choose and why?
Oh, don't do that to me.
It's a hard one. I told you.
But funny enough, that was exactly Webby's reaction as well when he was like, oh.
It did.
There isn't. I've never seen a better footballer than Paul Scholes in all my life. Right? They've got different strengths. You might say Ronaldo, you might say Messi, but Scholes, he pulls the strings in midfield. So they might be equally as good. They might be better at doing the things that they do. So I've not seen a better player than Paul Scholes in all my life, even Bobby Charlton. But I've also not seen a player who absolutely galvanises a team and absolutely puts the fear of God into the opposition. So Roy Keane does. So I'd have to say Keano.
Yeah, I think in the end we summarised it the other day by saying Keano for the leadership, Scholesy for the technique, for the play. But Keano, obviously, he was such a leader. I think we massively lack that now. And not just at United. I think that it's rare to find footballers like Roy Keane. I think in this day and age, to be honest, he was definitely one of his own, wasn't he? But yeah, we're reminiscing here. We're sitting here reminiscing the good times. Hopefully, we have something to smile about it this weekend.
I don't think you'll be able to get a player like Roy Keane anymore because I think VAR's took that out of the game, hasn't it? You can't do anything. Someone got sent off the other day for sarcastically tapping a player on the head. Oh, get a grip! It's football.
Did you see the sending off for Sheffield United against Aston Villa? By the way,
can't remember.
Did you see how soft that was? So he was last man, but he was like miles from the goal. The keeper was coming out to clear the ball as well. They couldn't guarantee whether the striker was going to get there first or what. It was Watkins, I believe it was, for Villa, And he did pull him a little bit. He was a bit all over him, but he didn't go to ground. I don't think there was a lot in it, and he had a straight red, and obviously it wasn't overturned, and it changed the game completely. But like you say, VAR, if they're giving red cards for stuff like that, just imagine what Roy Keane would be getting. I mean,
as you two have both sort of said tonight, like Meg played as a centre back, or plays, and you're playing as a CDM.
CDM.
I used to play at centre forward. So if that was me running through on goal, which I did see it now you've mentioned it, I remember it, without a shadow of a doubt he fouls him. Without a shadow of a doubt. He's holding him, and the mere fact that he's holding him, he'd be preventing him from either look, we never know if he would have got to the ball, but he's trying to get to that ball. So that defender is holding him to try to prevent him. And why is he holding him to try to prevent him? Because he thinks he's going to go through on goal, doesn't he? That's why he's doing it. It's exactly why he's doing it. To me,
he's impeding him, isn't he?
Yeah, to me, under today's rules, it's a nailed-on straight red.
Yeah. And to be fair, I can get why Wilder was a bit frustrated, because I think you associate a red card with someone being totally wiped out or studs up or a malicious challenge. And obviously it wasn't that, like you said, it was tactical. He knew it, that it was going to be clean through. Yeah. But yeah, I just think when you think about the cards that are given, and I mean the Gibbs one as well, with James Rodriguez, stuff like that would be happening week in, week out with Roy Keane, wouldn't it? You'd barely see him on the pitch because he'd be banned most of the time. Genuinely.
I was going to say, you wouldn't be able to have Keane in your team because he'd literally be banned for most of the season. You'd get him for a game and he'd be off again for 3.
He got a little bit over the top, girls. I think he did dominate the opposition, but he wasn't, and he used to dish it out, but he wouldn't. You know, it isn't that long ago, and he wouldn't have got away with it quite that much. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I take
it was quality though. It was quality.
Great player.
Ali, thank you for the super chat. Says Ricky, are you the founder of Martial FC? I think you might be, Rick, yeah?
I doubt.
I think you might be.
From the moment he scored that goal against Liverpool, when I was sitting in the North Stand and he came on, I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah, I hope he continues his good form. Last season, obviously, he scored a good amount of goals, and I think his hold-up play, his general play, it was just really impressive last season, and I hope that continues to this season. I'm going to finish off as well by asking you your predictions for the Brighton game. I mean, Meg, if you want to start and give us your prediction.
I'm going to go for a win. I hope we build confidence from the fact that we won in midweek and we go through with that. Not going to be easy, obviously. At the moment, no game is easy for Manchester United. But I'm going to go for another. I'd like to see another clean sheet as well. I think that's really important. I'm going to just go for another 3-0. I'm going to have confidence. I'm going to ooze confidence.
We're not going to concede.
We're not going to concede. We're not. I'm channeling that right now. We're not going to concede. No, 3-0.
3-0. Okay, Rick, what's your prediction for this one?
Well, like I said before, you know what the lineup's going to be, but I'm going to assume he's going to pick Matic, and Megs has already assumed that by saying we're going to keep a clean sheet. So,
yeah, playing in goal, Rick.
We keep clean sheets when Matic plays. The clean sheet ratio goes through the roof when Matic plays. I'm going to predict that Matic is going to play, and that will win 2-0.
2-0. Okay, I think mine, I'm going to go for a closer game. I think we'll concede. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go 3-1. I think we've got enough going forwards to cause them trouble, but I think Lamptey could be a problem for us. So I think we will concede one, but I still think we'll get the win. I'm just going to finish off. Thank you, A, for the super chat. Nobody that actually has met Pogba questions his attitude. It's just media, centralisation. I'm more worried about Maguire. 0 trophies, 5 relegations. Like I said earlier, it is a lot of it is hearsay with Pogba. You don't know what to believe. When he's focusing on his football, that's when he's at his best. And I think that's what we should be more interested in. You see him just getting his head down and playing. But Ricky, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Hairdryer Treatment. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you let people know where they can follow you on social media as well.
Yeah, Rick the Reg UK on Twitter.
There he's on the screen, as you can see as well, at Rick the Reg. And of course, you find him on United Stand as well. Talking all things Manchester United, hopefully talking about a win at the weekend. Meg, thank you as always for coming on.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the lineup announcement, Ricky. Now that I know you were that you played centre forward, I'm expecting a big goal for you from you at the end. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that. I'm going to say now we know why he's banging the goals in.
Yeah, I'm stopping it now. The winter's coming in now, isn't it? I'm stopping that for winter.
I expect the little the tea bag chat. You know, when they're in lockdown, they were all getting tea bags and then you had to flick it into the cup.
Yeah.
So instead of the goal, are we waiting for one of those, Ricky, instead?
Yeah, I think to get your brew ready for the game, definitely. But thank you both for coming on. As always, an absolute pleasure. Fingers crossed we get the win. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll speak to you all soon in the chat. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and if you miss your comment, of course, we'll check later on the videos to put them there. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks all.